everybody, welcome to today's episode. In this episode, I want to talk about one of the critical sort of mindset shifts that you need to make when you go from one-on-one or even one-to-many coaching to a scalable online experience. And this is a big one. So this is something that you may or may not even know that you're struggling with. But I was working with a client the other day, and she went from one-on-one and then successfully transformed to kind of a one-to-many model. And as she was doing that, like a couple different things happened, right? So she went from one-to-one to one-to-many, so group. And a lot of her one-on-one customers were like, I don't want to do group, right? Like, I'm here because I want one-on-one attention. And so she found that she had to sort of pivot the experience that she had created for those one-on-one people to try and create something different in a group model. And so she went through that evolution, and it was great. However, there were a couple of things that were happening when she was running her group model that were preventing her from growing, preventing her from keeping her customers and retaining her customers. Because what she had done is she successfully moved the model, but she hadn't moved necessarily her mindset yet around the difference between showing up and helping customers one-on-one versus showing up and helping customers in a group environment versus creating a scalable experience, which is you are actually creating a curated experience for an individual using technology, using group experiences, and sometimes some additional one-on-one experiences at scale so that that person is getting results. Because regardless if you're doing it one-on-one, one-to-many, or in a scalable model, the goal is always to get that customer a result, right? It's to take them from their problem that they've had to the result that they're looking for. So the way that you're delivering it changes as you start to scale. But what you are actually giving them in terms of the step-by-step path to get to the result doesn't change regardless of how you're delivering, right? Regardless of how you're showing up one-to-one, one-to-many, or in a scalable online experience. That all is the same result, just the way that you're showing up is different. And so once like I was able to uncover that for her and sort of ask her that question, like, what's your consistent way that you're helping people get results, right? Like, you are the expert. What's your authority strategy that allows you to get, somebody from point A to point B? And then the layer that you put on top of that is how you're going to show up and help them. And when you're first getting started, a lot of times you start in one-on-one because you're sort of just trying to kind of prove the model, right? Or validate or test the model. And so you're showing up one-on-one and you're helping your people. Eventually you start getting into that, okay, wait, I actually can consistently help people to get from point A to point B. And so how about you're really good at that, right? So you get a lot more clients, and then you're like, okay, great. Now I want to shift into one-to-many because your calendar is maxed out. You cannot possibly take on any more one-on-one customers. And so you're like, okay, great. Now let's try and create a group model. So the group model doesn't actually change from one-on-one to one-to-many, right? So I had another customer who was sort of challenged with, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do coaching at a group level, then they all need to be working on the same topic, right? The same goal. And then I'm going to take them through the experience at the same time. And we're going to end up with this goal, but it was different than the core path that they had. So again, your delivery method, one-on-one, one-to-many, scalable online experience does not change the fundamental path that you take people down. It's just how you're showing up. One of the things I love about the scalable online experience model is that you can combine all of those. You can combine one-on-one and group and a whole online leveraged experience to make a really rich experience for your people and still maximize your time. So anyway, that was a shift that really helped this person start to take their business in a completely different direction so that they could start scaling, right? Because they went from one to one to one to many to start scaling. And then they found themselves sort of trapped in the same model where it was like, oh, I'm still offering one-on-one calls, but now I've added group and now I've added more content and I've added all these different things, but they weren't actually leading with any of those other things. They were still operating under the, well, I'm going to personally help you get from point A to point B. And so the model is still sort of wrapped around you and how you can deliver a solution to them. Once you can package that solution into an online model, right? So you kind of create the virtual version of you and you start driving people into that experience as the sort of central hub of where they go versus the central hub of where you are, then people will start using the virtual version of you and the experience that you've set up for them. And then you're able to just sort of come in and help remove obstacles, get rid of roadblocks, answer questions. So you're having really rich conversations when you're working with someone because you're helping them get through the journey that they need to go from point A to point B. You're not driving the journey anymore. And so when I explained that to them, I was like, until you have a sort of a central hub, a central experience area where you're sending them there first and not to you first, then you'll always end up in that position where you're not scalable, right? Because it's still driven by you. So an example of this is I said, okay, so how are you communicating with people? Well, I meet with them and then I kind of give them some ideas of where they should go within the content to get what they need. And then we meet again and we go through the different things. And there was no central calendar. There was no sort of, way that they could figure out how to show up and when to show up at the group calls or at different kind of pieces throughout the experience, because she waited until she was on a phone call with them and then guided them down the path of where they were supposed to go. And again, if you send them into an experience and you help create a curated, personalized online experience where they are getting what they need in the experience and not directly from you, you're not driving it, you will see your business explode, because you are then out of the being the hub of where they're getting all of the answers. And then again, you come in at those meaningful places and you're adding a ton of value when you come in. Conversations are shorter, the needs that they have are more targeted, and you are able to really drive them through your online experience so they show up, so they participate, and so they get results, and you are able to enhance the experience because you like to connect with people. You want to be able to solve problems and really get into those juicy conversations. If you're spending all of your time helping them figure out how to get on a Zoom call, then you are wasting your talents and you're not able to figure out how that whole online experience model connects. And it's just shifting this little tiny thing where you drive them into the experience and remember, you need to remember this, is that just because you are not showing up with them live does not mean they're not experiencing you, because they're watching you and they're developing a relationship with you. Even though it is the virtual version of you on video, they still are getting a sense of who you are and what you have to offer. And that is so, so powerful. So you always have to remember that they could be binge watching or listening to you for hours, right? And you're like, I didn't even talk to you today. And they're like, oh, I talked to you all day long. I feel totally connected to you and to the material and everything else that you have put out there that allows me to have a consistent experience and be able to do it on my time, right? So remember, where they are, you feel disconnected because you're not involved, in real time with them. So that's why you show up one-on-one, because it's actually because you need that connection So when you get to that point where the experience is the hub and you are not, you will see your business continue to rise to the next level. All right, there you go. That is my tip for you today.